Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second installment of the quite epic and amazing series well known as Building Characters in Video Games. That is correct, you heard correctly. In this video, you will learn how to correctly build Diona incorrectly. Okay, I'll stop saying correctly now. I mean, you could have at least asked correctly. Okay, for all those insane people that haven't given up on this video, I swear it's actually a legit guide. I spent weeks, months, and quite possibly centuries on this. Yes, mother. Yes, weapons. The best way to solve any conflict. Diona's least worst 5-star, I would say, is Polar Star because two reasons. Reason number one, if you're using the Blizzard Strayer set plus the Cryo Party Resonance, the crit rate on the Polar Star is enough for your whole build. Because of how high the crit rate is, you barely need to touch crit rate at all on your artifacts, which is very cool. Reason number two, unlike most passives on the bows that exist currently, Diona can actually utilize the Polar Stars. The second best in slot would be Skyward Harp or H2O Simulacra. The ground word harmonica, get it? Because ground word is like, you know, the opposite of skyward, and a harmonica is the opposite of a harp. If you need some crit rate and crit damage. Well said. Now for number three, Thundering Pulse isn't actually good. It just has crit damage. Just use Prototype Crescent. The number one best in slot 4-star weapon for Diona is the Blackcliff Warbow, because I said so. Really, just use the Prototype Crescent. It's good enough. Number two, I would say, is Prototype Crescent, because it's free and it's actually not insanely terrible. The Hamayumi can also work, although it has a very low base attack, which always kind of put me off about this bow, but it's not bad. Artifacts. For a good cryo DPS, okay, good relatively speaking, she isn't a good DPS at all. Just give her your Ayaka build or something. Anyways, a good artifact set for DPS Diona. First piece, Blizzard Strayer, if you're running a freeze team, or a team that has lots of cryo application. Yeah, but lots of cryo is... Okay, mum. Another option is the 2-piece Blizzard Strayer and 2-piece attack plus 18. Yes, there is quite the sum of attack 2 pieces because, yes, this option lets you be more flexible with your teams, which is cool. Now time for DPS Artifact stats. For the main stats, you want crit rate or crit damage on the circlet If you're running 4-piece Blizzard Destroyer, then I would recommend a crit damage circlet, and then try to get crit rate from your substats and maybe a weapon. For the goblet, you want cryo damage. For the sands, you want attack percent, and for the substats, you'll want crit rate, crit damage, attack percent is good as well, and elemental mastery can be nice if you're running, like, I don't know, like a melt charge shot Diona, which, I mean, knock yourself out, or lack thereof. Well, before I tell you the talent priority, I shall explain the various skills of Diona. Well, the first talent, auto attacks. Unless you're a physical Diona, you shouldn't be normal attacking. However, the less complete trash option is to charge shot, which basically turns you into a baby trash cat Ganyu, which is a good thing, I guess? Anyways, for Diona's elemental skill, she yeets frozen stuff out that auto-target enemies, and by auto-target them, I mean will avoid the enemy at all costs and get stuck on everything larger than my singular brain cell unless you're French kissing me. I swear this thing has the range of a wet chicken. Aside from that very satisfying skill, 8 out of 8. And now, last and definitely least, the Elemental Burst. She just kicks a flask of... What? Yeah, she does. Wait, she actually doesn't kick it? What? Ah yes, so she flicks this flask containing goodness knows what that might do a little bit of exploding and creates a field of ice that, I don't know bro, it do the cryo multiple times. And heals the on-field character along with those ticks of cryo. That's what it is, they I don't know, they tick. No, that's not the right word. Anyways, this cryo application is nice for freeze teams because the cryo over time, constantly applying cryo. Now for the talent priorities. I will cover the talent priorities for a healer shielder Diona in the support section. Talent priorities, if you're running her as a, I guess, quote-unquote hyper carry, which the words Diona and hyper carry should never be used in the same sentence, then you'd want to level up her normal attack. Next would be Icy Paws, her elemental skill, and then lastly her burst. Constellation 1 regenerates 15 energy for Diona after the effects of Signature Mix, her elemental burst, ends. It's pretty self-explanatory, it gives you 15 energy when your burst disappears off the field. Number 2 increases Icy Paws damage by 15%, which is very nice. It's a 15% damage bonus to your elemental skill, which is only useful if you're playing a DPS Diona. It increases its shield's damage absorption by 15%. I just had a stroke. Basically, elemental skill do more damage, elemental skill chunkier shield. And then the last half basically gives your co-op party members just a shield, which is like L who plays co-op friends. Cringe, honestly. Constellation 3 increases the level of Signature Mix, her elemental burst, by 3. Constellation 4 is definitely DPS Diona's best constellation by far. Within the radius of Signature Mix, Diona's charge time for aim shots is reduced by 60%. That is huge. That turns her from an absolutely insanely terrible DPS unit to a still really bad DPS unit, but not as bad as before. Constellation 5 increases her elemental skills level by 3. In Constellation 6, characters within Signature Mix's radius will gain the following effects based on their HP amounts. Increases incoming healing bonus by 30% when HP falls below or is equal to 50%. That's good for a healer shielder Diona, but the second part, Elemental Mastery, increases by 200 when HP is above 50%. That could be good for Diona if you are perhaps trying to melt a charge shot and, I don't know, get a relatively not small number off. But it's also just increasing the elemental mastery of a character within the radius of her elemental bursts by 200 is actually quite useful. Now I'm going to talk about DPS Diona's teams. So, if you're running a 4-piece Blizzard Strayer set, you will definitely want another Cryo unit in your party because of the Cryo Resonance. It increases the crit rate against opponents that are frozen or affected by Cryo by 15%. Very nice. Very
epic. Mostest Hogger's champion.
So you'll want a Cryo unit along with Diona, an Anemo unit, which could be Sucrose or Kazuha. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Sayu might work, although not really. Anyways, the Anemo unit is there to shred the enemy's cryo resistance via the Viridescent artifact set and crowd control, which can be useful for Diona's elemental skill. And then the last unit would probably be someone like Bennett, just for an attack bonus. Another team could be an Anemo unit and another cryo unit. Anemo still for the Viridescent shred, and another cryo unit for the cryo party resonance. And then the last character this time would be an off-field hydro applier, like Kokomi, who places down her jellyfish. It applies hydro over time, even while she's off the field, which means you can place down her jellyfish and then Diona's burst so that you can freeze. Another team could be Diona, obviously, and someone like Shangling, who applies Pyro off-field. You could use Shangling's burst to apply Pyro so that you can reverse melt Diona's charged attacks, which is like a terrible waste. But, you know, if you're a hardcore Diona main, like myself, actually not, then go ahead. And then just like always, another party member would be Cryo, and then the last party member could be a Anemo unit for Viridescent Shred, or an off-field hydro unit for freeze. Anyways, those are just a couple of my ideas for teams. Again, Diona is not a DPS character. If you are playing her as a DPS, chances are you don't really care about meta and damage. So just, you know, as usual, have fun and play with the characters that you enjoy. Those teams were just a couple that I thought of in case you wanted to try them out. Okay, now that we're done with the more memeable DPS Diona build, let's move on to a more supportive and realistic build, which is using her as for her intended role as a shieler/healer. The only 5-star bow that I can see being useful for a support Diona would be Elegy for the End, although it is slightly overkill, and I would recommend just throwing on one of the 4 stars that I will mention in the 4-star section. Alright, the most free-to-play accessible and a very nice option is the Favonius Warbow. You get this for free when you reach like AR 10, I think, and it's a very good bow. It has energy recharge, secondary stat, and the passive generates a nice amount of energy for your whole team. Overall, very valuable bow. I recommend using this. Another good option is the Sacrificial Bow. This bow also has energy recharge as a secondary stat, and its passive allows you to essentially have 2 charges of your skill, which gives you more energy, but that's just cryo particles. So if she's the only cryo character in your party, she will kind of be the only one benefiting from this, although it's still a very nice option. I would say it's tied with the Favonius Warbow. Also, I'd like to mention that the end of the line is usable, I suppose, but it's definitely not recommended when there are other options like Favonius Warbow, which you get for free. Now for the artifacts, I would say that Noblesse Oblige is her best in slot as a support because of the 20% if you don't already have a Noblesse Oblige user on your team. Another good option would be Tenacity of the Millilith. This is also a good option, giving you 20% HP and a nice effect that boosts the attack of your party members, which is a very useful effect. Another option, which I don't really recommend because the other two are significantly, well, better would be the Maiden's Beloved. It's pretty much makes you heal a lot, which isn't particularly necessary. If you really want to just maximize your healing, then I suppose you could use this, but I would highly recommend Noblesse Oblige or Tenacity of the Millilith over Maiden's Beloved. Also, another option if you really want to min-max healing would be 2-piece Ocean Hued Clam and 2-piece Maiden's Beloved. Again, not as recommended as the Noblesse Oblige or Tenacity of the Millilith because all it's giving you is healing, which isn't really necessary because she heals enough without all of that. Now for the stats you'd want on the artifacts. Just ignore the fact that I have my DPS artifacts on her. For the circlet, you would want a healing bonus main stat. For the goblet, I would recommend HP percent for your goblet. Unless you want your Diona to do, I guess, a bit more damage, then you could go with the cryo damage. I would recommend HP though. For the sands would be energy recharge so that you have enough energy to spam your burst. Now for the subsets you're looking for, I would prioritize energy recharge then HP. You want to have enough energy recharge to be able to spam your burst so that you can get enough heals off so that your team won't die. If you have too much energy recharge, then you're losing the HP that you need to have a strong shield and heal well. Now for the specific amount of energy recharge that you want, obviously this is my DPS build, but for support build, you would want around, what I found was most comfortable would be around 200 energy recharge, which sounds difficult to achieve, but I was able to get easily around 200 with just an energy recharge Sans and a level 80 Favonius Warbow. See, pretty simple. That will give you enough energy recharge to comfortably get your burst back without too much downtime. Now for the talents. For support Diona, you really don't need to level your normal attack at all. For the elemental skill, there's a hold option and a tap option. I would always recommend holding it because it gives you a tankier shield and more particles. For the talent priorities, I would say burst, then skill. For a support, you don't need to touch the normal attacks at all, although the burst and the skill are very important for her kit. Now for the teams, she can basically fit into any team where you need a shield and some heals. Pretty simple. Of course, she's also very useful in freeze teams because of obviously her heals and shield, but because of the cryo application from her burst and skill. Well, now I'm exhausted. If you enjoyed this video or found it informative, no, there's no in between. You're not allowed to enjoy a video and find it informative. That's definitely a rule that exists. Then please consider subscribing, because I plan on making many more videos like this in the future. Also, I'm not exactly sure which character to make a guide on next, so if there's a specific character that you would like to see me make a guide for, then just leave it in a comment down below. Like, it's not like I'm gonna have to sift through a lot of comments to find yours, so anyways, leave a like and I will be happy, but if not, understandable. Have a great day.